In a packed courtroom, Officer Daniel Hargrove smirked as 19-year-old Maya Ellison stood at the defense table. Her braids neatly pulled back, her expression calm but fierce. He'd arrested her for resisting during a traffic stop, certain her defiance was just teenage arrogance. "This kid's done," he muttered to his partner, chuckling, unaware that Maya, a law prodigy who'd passed the bar at 18, was about to unravel his case and his career with a legal brilliance no one saw coming. The courtroom buzzed with a low hum of anticipation as Maya Ellison, barely out of her teens, stood before Judge Evelyn Carter. Her navy blazer was slightly oversized, borrowed from her mother's closet, but her posture was unshakable. Across the room, Officer Daniel Hargrove leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. His lips curled into a faint, mocking grin. To him, Maya was just another kid caught in the system, one he'd personally hauled in after a routine traffic stop turned heated. The charge was resisting arrest, a misdemeanor he'd slapped on her when she questioned his authority. He'd seen her kind before, young, black, and too mouthy for her own good, he thought. What he didn't know was that Maya wasn't just any teenager. She was a legal prodigy, a girl who'd graduated high school at 15, earned a law degree by 17, and passed the bar exam on her first try at 18. Today, she wasn't just defending herself. She was about to turn the tables. The incident had started 3 months earlier on a humid July evening in Atlanta. Maya was driving home from her part-time job at a community center, her beat-up Honda Civic humming along Peachtree Street. She was tired but focused, her mind already on the legal briefs she'd been drafting for a pro bono case. Officer Hargrove, patrolling the area, noticed her car. A little too old, a little too loud, he later claimed, and pulled her over. The stop was routine at first. License, registration, the usual. But when Maya, calm and articulate, asked why she'd been stopped, Hargrove's demeanor shifted. Her confidence irritated him. "You don't get to question me," he snapped, his voice sharp with authority. Maya, knowing her rights, pressed further, citing Georgia traffic code. That's when Hargrove's patience snapped. He ordered her out of the car, and when she hesitated, not out of defiance but to grab her phone to record, he cuffed her, claiming she was resisting. The arrest report painted Maya as belligerent, uncooperative, a threat. Hargrove's narrative was clear. She was a troublemaker who needed to be taught a lesson. But Maya wasn't the type to let a false narrative stand. She'd spent years studying law, inspired by her grandmother, a civil rights activist who'd marched in Selma. From the moment she was booked, Maya began preparing her defense, poring over case law, police protocols, and Hargrove's own record. She found patterns, complaints against him, allegations of racial bias, excessive force. None had stuck, but Maya wasn't deterred. She saw an opportunity not just to clear her name but to expose a system that let officers like Hargrove operate unchecked. In court, the prosecution called Hargrove to the stand first. He strode up confidently, his badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The prosecutor, a seasoned attorney named Richard Knowles, led him through his version of events. Hargrove described Maya as aggressive, claiming she'd refused to comply with lawful orders. She was yelling, flailing her arms, he said, his tone steady but tinged with disdain. I had no choice but to restrain her for my safety. The gallery murmured, some nodding in agreement, others skeptical. Maya sat quietly, her pen moving swiftly across a legal pad, jotting down every word. When it was her turn to cross-examine, Maya stood, her voice clear and measured. Officer Hargrove, she began, you stated I was yelling and flailing. Can you confirm the exact words I used during our interaction? Hargrove hesitated, his smirk faltering. You were mouthing off, questioning my authority, he replied vague. Maya pressed further. So, no specific words. No direct quotes. Hargrove shifted in his seat, his jaw tightening. It's in my report, he said curtly. Maya nodded, flipping to a page in her binder. Your report also states I was a threat to officer safety. Can you describe how a 5 feet 2 inches, unarmed teenager posed a physical threat to you, a 6 feet 1 inch officer with 15 years of training. The courtroom went silent. Hargrove's face reddened. You were non-compliant, he said, his voice rising slightly. Maya didn't flinch. She pulled out a USB drive and requested permission to play a recording. Judge Carter, intrigued, allowed it. The audio, captured from Maya's phone, told a different story. Her voice was calm, asking, "Can you tell me why I'm being stopped, sir?" Hargrove's response was sharp. "Get out of the car now." No yelling, no flailing, just a teenager asserting her rights. The gallery stirred, whispers spreading. Hargrove's confidence cracked. Maya didn't stop there. She introduced Hargrove's personnel file, obtained through a public records request. "Officer Hargrove, you've had 6 complaints of excessive force in the past 3 years, for involving black individuals. 3 were dismissed for lack of evidence. Does that sound accurate?" Knowles objected, citing relevance, but Maya was ready. "It establishes a pattern of behavior, Your Honor, directly relevant to the credibility of the officer's account." Judge Carter overruled the objection, her eyes narrowing as she leaned forward. Maya continued, citing case law, Graham v. Connor, Tennessee v. Garner, to argue that Hargrove's use of force was unjustified. She dissected his report, pointing out inconsistencies, timestamps that didn't align, vague descriptions, and a lack of body cam footage, which Hargrove claimed was malfunctioning. By the time Maya finished, Hargrove was visibly shaken. His smug grin was gone, replaced by a tight-lipped scowl. The prosecution's case began to crumble. Knowles tried to redirect, emphasizing Hargrove's experience and the heat-of-the-moment nature of policing, but Maya's cross-examination had planted doubt. She didn't just defend herself. She exposed Hargrove's bias, his quickness to escalate, his reliance on stereotypes. The judge, known for her no-nonsense demeanor, took notice. When Maya took the stand, she told her story with quiet conviction. She described the stop, the fear she felt when Hargrove's tone turned hostile, the humiliation of being cuffed in front of her neighbors. But she didn't dwell on emotion. Instead, she laid out the facts. Her clean record, her academic achievements, her knowledge of the law. "I wasn't resisting," she said. "I was exercising my rights." Officer Hargrove didn't like that. Her testimony was compelling, not because it was emotional, but because it was precise, logical, undeniable. The prosecution's closing argument leaned heavily on Hargrove's authority. "Officers make split-second decisions," Knowles argued. "We can't second-guess their judgment." Maya's closing was different. She spoke directly to the judge, her voice steady. "This case isn't just about me. It's about accountability. Officer Hargrove abused his power, and his actions reflect a pattern that's gone unchecked for too long. The law applies to everyone, citizens and officers alike." Judge Carter deliberated for less than an hour. Her ruling was swift. Not guilty. The resisting charge was dismissed, and she went further, ordering an internal review of Hargrove's conduct. The courtroom erupted in murmurs, some shocked, others triumphant. Hargrove stormed out, his face a mask of fury. Maya remained composed, shaking hands with her supporters, her mother beaming in the front row. But Maya wasn't done. She filed a civil suit against Hargrove and the department, alleging racial profiling and excessive force. Using the same meticulous research, she uncovered more complaints against Hargrove, including one from a black teenager who'd been wrongfully arrested 2 years prior. Maya tracked down the teen, now a college student, and offered to represent him pro bono. Her case gained traction, drawing attention from local media and civil rights groups. Hargrove was placed on administrative leave, his career teetering. Maya's story spread beyond Atlanta. Law schools invited her to speak, and she became a symbol of resistance against systemic bias. She didn't seek the spotlight, but she embraced it, using it to advocate for others. At 19, she opened a small legal clinic, offering free representation to those targeted by overzealous policing. Her first client was the teenager from Hargrove's past case. They won a settlement, and Hargrove was quietly forced into early retirement. Years later, Maya reflected on that courtroom moment. Not the victory, but the look on Hargrove's face when he realized she wasn't just a kid. "He underestimated me," she said in an interview. That was his first mistake. For Maya Ellison, it wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about proving herself right, for herself and for everyone else the system had tried to silence.